Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. The question is asking here, I know it's not permissible for me to sell something which I don't have possession of. That's clear. The Messenger of Allah said, La tubi' ma laysa indak. But can I take a deposit while I wait for the item to arrive? Once the item arrives in my hand and I've taken possession of it, I will then go to the customer and then complete the rest of the payment. I'm just going to take a deposit. Is that allowed or not allowed? Now, in answering this question, from the earliest of the ulama that discussed this issue is Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. And in his Kitab al-Umm, he said that there are two different scenarios here. If you have agreed and the transaction has been made complete, and the consumer has agreed with the vendor that once the item comes, it is mine automatically, then that is haram. Because the Messenger of Allah said, La tabi', the trade has been completed. And he has sold what he doesn't have possession of. But if this is a promise to buy, meaning once the item comes, the consumer will have the option of carrying on and completing the payment or taking their deposit back, and that's it, as if nothing ever happened. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah is saying, in the second scenario, this is permissible. And this, in actual fact, is not even a deposit. It's not called an urbun, which is, found in the books of fiqh. This is just a wa'd, which is a promise, and the person is leaving some kind of collateral there to show their interest, and it is not being completed. Some of the Maliki ulama have said they've got a principle in their madhab which is known as al-wa'd al-mulzim, meaning if you have made a promise with the consumer or the trader, then this is binding. What seems to be the correct view is that a promise is not trade. And this is what Imam al-Shafi'i is saying, and this is the view of many of the contemporaries also. Therefore, taking a deposit for an item which you do not have possession of takes one of two scenarios, and it takes a different ruling on each scenario. If you have made the transaction complete and final, then that is not permissible because you have taken possession of something or you have traded something which you don't have possession of. If it is an agreement and a promise, then that is permissible for you to take hold of the deposit, but that must then be returned to the buyer if they do not want to continue. But the trader might then say, well, that doesn't favor me, that actually makes my situation worse, because then I can order the item, and the consumer might say at the end of it, well, I'm not interested anymore, now I'm stuck with this item. So is there a solution? Then the solution is what the ulama call as murabaha. Murabaha is where the person says to the customer, the vendor says to the customer, look, you want to buy this mobile phone? Right, I will be your agent. The mobile phone will cost you, £100. My fee is £20. If you want me to go buy the phone for you, I can buy the phone for you. Give me the £120 and I'll bring it for you. That is the solution for the vendor if he fears or she fears that the consumer might not fulfill their promise. But if they have taken what they are calling a deposit, but in actual fact is not a deposit, because urbun is when trade has been completed. So now, for example, if the buyer and the customer have agreed, the possession of the item is there, and the possession has been completed and exchanged, and then they give a deposit, and then they say, listen, I'll give you the rest of the payment tomorrow or whenever. And that's different. That is known as an urbun, that is known as a deposit. But Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah is saying here, this is not a deposit anyway, because the transaction has not been completed. Therefore, inshallah, it is permissible for a person to take that payment, but it must be returned fully if the consumer does not want to go ahead with the deal. If the vendor, the trader, fears by doing what we have said here is going to be detrimental to them, then their way out is doing what is known as murabaha. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the best understanding of our religion, and He puts barakah in everything that He gives us. Wallahu a'lam, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.